Welcome everybody. I hope you're having a really good day so far. So I normally host the Scribe Academy events, but today I guess I am hosting and also speaking. So I'll be giving you an overview of how to clerk smarter, not harder. This is the term that Jess, she coined the term, which is quite nice. We thought about it. We're always thinking of new ideas, new topics to bring to Scribe Academy. And then this topic seemed to come up in terms of helping people kind of work in a more efficient way. So we listed we only came up with the title. That's all we came up. We listed it on Scribe Academy, and I thought, yeah, I'll be able to talk about that. I hadn't prepared. I've been quite busy doing other things. I hadn't prepared anything. So last week I had a look. We had a look to see how many people have signed up for the event, and it was like 117. So I went into panic mode, thought, oh my God, I've got 117 people attending a webinar, and I've got to teach them about how to clerk smarter, not harder. And I'm not even a clerk. So, but anyway, I guess I have a lot of experience. I mean, obviously smarter means a little bit on the technology side, but I've had various kind of, we all have busy lives. Maybe I have quite a few different things going on. Not only I've run like big teams in the past. Scribe's a lot smaller team. Then I've run, teams of over 50 people. Scribe's team of about 9 of us, but however, I'm involved in lots of different parts of the business. I'm responsible for the product development, work for Jess on the marketing, doing events like this. I'm also the CEO of the company, and I get involved a little bit on the sales side. And then also I run a really big community group in Norwich with 2,000 members. It's like a tech community, so I'm always organizing events for that. And then the other day, a few months ago, my running club asked me to be the webmaster for the running club website and social media and those kinds of things. So I guess I'm quite busy, so I have to be quite efficient in the way I work. And also, I'm a bit of a geek, so I will use tools to kind of make work easier. So hopefully I am qualified to talk about this topic. So I'll share my slides there and we'll jump straight in. I think this came up the other day. I saw it on LinkedIn. I can't remember the lady who posted it, and it was someone who posted a list of all the responsibilities of a clerk. So I dropped it on the Clerks Corner, our Facebook group, and then I asked, there's a bunch of things on there already, and I asked the people on social. It got quite a lot of engagement, over 50 likes, I think, and then a bunch of comments, and said, is there anything missing on it? So a bunch of people said, yeah, there were missing responsibilities on it. So we kind of reformatted that kind of initial post, or Jess did. She's created this the role of a clerk. And yes, it is a crazy role. The kind of, often clerks find themselves working in isolation on their own, and they have so many different responsibilities. They're like head of finance, head of HR, head of communications, head of assets and kind of management, and then you have to be law experts. It's kind of a very diverse role. Actually, I always think it was a great role for recent graduates to do. It's like the perfect work experience if you spent a few years being a clerk for your parish and town council. You're not only giving back to the community, but also you're going to get all this amazing experience, kind of accelerate your career. So it is a bit wild, and there is so much on the plate of a clerk that it can get quite overwhelming. So I'm going to run a little bit of poll. Let me just move on to the next slide. In terms of kind of your style of management, I'm just going to trigger this poll, and I won't mind get your views. So in terms of your style of management, in terms of managing your time and tasks, because we're not all superheroes. We can't do all those things. So we may find that we are in one of these kind of categories of people. So fire away and fill out this poll that I'm running, just to get an understanding of how you feel you fit in these categories. So are you a firefighter, perfectionist, a time martyr, procrastinator, a distractor, or an underestimator? So that, or, I mean, don't answer it if you're none of these and you're just absolutely kind of nailing it. So we'll let those come in. We've got 60, we're almost getting there, yes. So 40%. So I'm going to just hit end poll in a second, because I'm running another poll after this. So we've got 50 responses there. So I'm going to end the poll on that, and then I'm going to share it with you. So as you can see there, as I kind of expected, the 50% of you feel like you're firefighting all the time. And then, yeah, in second place there is perfectionist. I also think that, yeah, that's kind of how I thought the results would come out. I mean, sometimes you might feel you have to do a perfectionist because you are working for local government and you do want to ensure that you're getting things right. And then, yeah, 12% there as procrastinators. So I'll just stop sharing those results, and then I'm just going to get kind of an idea of how you are feeling. So we're going to run another poll here. I'll just bring it up. And I'm going to, in terms of how you manage your workload, so I'll just run that poll there, move on to the next slide. How are you doing? So yeah, this is kind of how you're feeling. Do you feel well organized, on top of things, generally happy, but you get seasonal effects in terms of like the stress, or do you feel, you know, like you make mistakes, miss things, you're working overtime, skipping your breaks, so poor work-life balance? Or kind of more extreme things, are you stressed, burnt out, suffering from anxiety, depression, and just generally have poor job satisfaction? And I guess like the most also extreme case of that is if you kind of just don't care anymore because you're so stressed out and anxious and you lack empathy, you know, you just really don't care, you're kind of beyond it. So it'd be good, yeah, it'd be good to get 50 responses again on that. So we're up to 41. Just a few more if you don't mind replying, and then I'll share the results. Okay, we've got 50 there. Excellent. So I'll end that poll. Okay, so let's have a little look at the results there. So the winner is 45%. Yeah, okay, so generally happy, but then you get these seasonal effects on stress. So we might be able to look at that. I've got topics on that. And then, yeah, so you often find you are skipping breaks, not taking time out for yourself, and you're working overtime. And I imagine also you're working overtime and not getting paid for it because you're probably contracted for so many hours a week and you're unable to get your work. So you're unable, yeah, you're working overtime and not getting paid for that. And yes, on the lower end, yeah, you're rushing, stressed, burnt out, 21%. And then anxiety and depression, 13%. So we really don't want to be in that situation, do we? This is kind of the the difficult end of it. You know, if you're in this situation, things have to change in terms of you and your team being able to solve that. So I'm not going to, you know, obviously be able to solve that all today, but I'm going to just move. I've got this. Yeah. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to kind of share 10 tactics that I have personally used over the years of being in a management position for over 20 years, and then also 10 tools, kind of more on the software, that hopefully will help you clerk smarter, not harder. Obviously, some of the things are not going to be relevant to you. Some things may not resonate with you, but there might be just one or two things that you're able to take away. And also, this is the first time I literally just finished the presentation 5 minutes before this talk, and Jessica was waiting for me on Zoom and I wasn't there. I finished it. So this is the first time I've done it. So I really would appreciate any of your feedback because I'm going to be hopefully refining and improving this over time, and I will definitely be using it more next year as I go along to physical events, AGM and conferences, particularly at Clerks, ALC events next year. So I'm going to be bringing that along. Okay, so appreciate you giving me anything. So I think one of the things the first tip I do is like clear your mind. I don't know, you need to, it's kind of just like, this is just kind of like a working principle. You should always try and get stuff out of your head. And this is what I do all the time. Because I mean, the big thing is, as I'm actually getting a little bit older, I actually unable to remember things so well. So I do have to have a clear mind. So I do have to get things out of my head into another medium, whether that's basically writing a list, writing a task management system. I'll be talking more about that later, but I always get things out of my head, because if you've not only got it out of your head, you're going to document it somewhere else. You're obviously going to be able to remember it, but also when you are trying to focus on something, then you've got a clear head to be able to focus on that. So that's kind of a working principle of mine. I'm always trying to clear out my mind to keep it, fresh, so that I can focus on things, and then also I don't make mistakes down the road in terms of forgetting things. And in terms of organizing your mode, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the Eisenhower matrix. This is the Eisenhower matrix. This is a really good way to kind of prioritize work, and we'll be carrying this theme throughout the rest of the talk. So the Eisenhower matrix was developed by an ex-president of the US. He came from a military background, and he prioritized his workload based on this simple matrix. So on the left-hand side, you've got stuff that's important and not important, and on the right-hand side, on the matrix, you've got urgent and not urgent. So any of the work that comes to him, he puts into these boxes. So in the top left-hand side, this is, based on that survey I've done with you, this is where 50% of you are operating most of the time. So things that are coming up, you're firefighting because it's important and urgent. So it's basically, you think, you may be you're dealing with things that are serious deadlines or crisis. So you really want to avoid working inside this box, because it's basically things that are cropping up that you're unaware of. And then on the right hand side, you've got important stuff to do, but it's not urgent, so it doesn't actually have a hard deadline, but it's very important. This is kind of your longer term work. This is where you want to be spending most of your time. It's a little bit, you've scheduled it, you're able to calmly do it and plan it and execute it. And the things that you do inside this box enable you really to move forward and improve things. There's kind of a good analogy is often used with this, particularly those two boxes there on the left and right hand side at the top, is, if you've got a boat and the boat's sinking, and you obviously have to bail out the water. So that's do it. You have to do it now. It's important and urgent. And if you don't plan to be able to fix that hole, that's all you're going to keep doing. You're not actually going to move forward. You're going to stay stationary. You're just going to keep bailing out that water. And you've got to come up with a plan where you can bail out enough water so that you can start putting remedies in place to be able to fix that blockage, so that you're able to stop sinking and move forward. Then on the bottom left-hand corners, it's things that you're working on that are urgent, that are not important. So often people will think they're working on something that's important and urgent, but actually it might be urgent, but it's not that important. So as it says, tasks that often masquerade as number one. And it gives kind of a sense of being productive. You feel like you're working, you're firefighting, you're getting stuff done, you kind of feel productive and valued. But you really should look at being assertive or using software tools to delegate this. And then on the top and the bottom right hand side, it's stuff that it's not important and urgent. They're normally distractions, and actually they're unproductive, and they also might make you feel worse after doing them. So I had a crack at putting, we had a chat with the team, had a crack at putting some examples in there that might fit into those categories for a clerk. So Yeah, so obviously in the urgent and important is kind of any emergency incident that you're on, whether it's health, legal, security risk, fire accident, technical outage, anything like that, that's kind of urgent. And there will be some things in there that were originally important and not urgent. So you did schedule it, but now it's coming up to a deadline. It's a regulatory deadline and you have to deliver it. Yeah, there might be sometimes you get important inquiries, email calls that you need to respond to, but not every call and email you have to respond to. Things like onboarding a new starter, they don't, they can, those kind of tasks. Then scheduling it, maybe a lot of the stuff on the financial side sits in your important, urgent column, but I think it should belong in the schedule it column. So just your finances, your admin, your budgeting, forecasting, preparing for internal audit, doing your bank reconciliations, and then doing your year end and all those kind of financial tasks. They can belong in this scheduling, and then they might move just for the last kind of short period of time, last day or two, they'll go into urgent important because you've got a tight deadline to deliver. Things, preparing for meetings, agendas, minutes and actions, doing things like quotes, and then general communications. All of these things you can schedule. And then, maybe self-improvement learning, such as attending training course like this, doing your own things, getting fit, fresh air, getting mind space. And then down at the bottom, delegating it. I mean, these are things that think you're being productive, but you're actually not being productive. So taking lengthy phone calls, lengthy discussions, lengthy meetings, doing manual or repetitive tasks that could be automated, responding to all inquiries. So if you're firefighting, you're doing all these things, you're answering frequently asked questions, responding to correspondence that could be handled by somebody else. These could be delegated to tools. Some of these actually belong in delete it as well. You could put them in both, like lengthy phone calls, discussions, meetings. You could stop doing those. But also you could delegate it to software tools or improving self-serve. I could be going more into that, or responding or delegating it to committee, etc. Then on the delete it, there's kind of poor behavior, like looking at social media, news, TV all the time, eating unhealthy food because you're so busy, you don't have time for yourself, being a perfectionist, gossiping and speculation, and spending time responding to frequent complainers and time wasters. And often, that can be, a big time waster. So we'll just go through, we're just now going to dive through the next slides into kind of looking at ways to better in each of these boxes. But before, actually, there's kind of one rule that breaks the Eisenhower matrix. And I'm not sure if any of you have ever heard of the 2-minute rule. I abide by this 2-minute rule. And when I don't stick to it, I make mistakes. I mean, like a good example, the other day, my wife emailed me, can I print this for something needed for school, for the kids, as a deadline. So the email came in, I wasn't focused on anything at that time, so I just printed it straight away, put it in my bag, so that I knew I could do it within 2 minutes. That's a task I could do in 2 minutes, put it in my bag. So I could have wrote that on my task list and planned it, which I do, but the amount of time, effort and cognitive load to process that kind of request, that task, document it and schedule it, and then remember it, the amount of time it takes to do that, it's just quicker to do it. So if a task comes into you and you're not focused at that time, just do it instantly. If you can do it in 2 minutes, do it. And I've always stuck to this 2-minute rule. Actually, I messed up with this week, particularly I printed it, so I did the right thing. I put it in my bag, and then took it home. And then later that evening, my wife said to me, "Oh, have you got that printout for the school form?" And I said, "Yes." And then in my head, I thought, I'll get that before I go to bed, and I'll put it out for my wife. I didn't. So in my mind, I logged it, scheduled it before I go to bed. and then I forgot to do it, and then I went to work, and then my daughter got in trouble because she didn't have her form. Yeah, so I should have, as soon as my wife said, "Oh, have you got that form?" I should have just done it. Totally a more efficient way to do it. So 2-minute rule is quite powerful to do. Then on the other end of the scale, I recommend like just these two things, following the 2-minute rule and eat that frog. I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of this term, eat that frog. It's something I also do. And basically, you should always aim, worst case scenario, you should always aim to get one thing done a day that really moves you forward. So this is not firefighting. This is improving things. This is in the schedule it. So this is part of the long-term vision. So, and do that thing when you're fresh in the morning, and do it first thing. So the reason why it's eat that frog, because you might not want to do it. It might be something that's challenging or difficult. Eating a frog's not going to be pleasant, as you can see here, but you've just got to get it done. So every day have the task, the mission of eating one frog a day. Get that thing done, get it done in the first, before you do any of the other things that make you feel like you're productive, like looking at all the emails that you've received over the, since you were last at work, looking at social media or anything. Just forget about all of that. Don't come into work, get your coffee and spend half an hour kind of indulging and being productive, looking at emails or anything like that. Just get stuck into it and eat that frog. You can also combine it with these other kind of concepts, Pareto analysis. And this is kind of, it's known as the 80-20 rule. So 20% of our actions are 80% of the outcomes. So that frog, although it'll be only 20% of your time for that day, actually it'll have the biggest impact in terms of outcomes. And you also, so you can Google all these particular things, and then also, I've been really getting into deep work, particularly in these days where there's so many distractions now. It's best, it's looking at practice to get that focus, to get that deep work. So that's something you should at least try and do for yourself and your organization, your council, every day. I mean, even on the weekends, try and get something done at home once a day. Because it's important, and also it's related to combine with Parkinson's law, and this is something I didn't even know there was a name for it, but it's something I've been doing for years, which is, as it states here, the amount of work and effort that you're going to put into a task expands according to the duration that you're allowed yourself to do it. So it's basically, the longer we've got, we tend to be less efficient. So I did this again last week. I set myself false deadlines. So I've Jane Daffern, she's our head of operations and head of customer success. She's been giving me pressure to get a list of all the improvements we've got to make to our product, particularly based on customer feedback. And I've been dipping in and out of it over the last couple of weeks, but I've been kind of doing other things, juggling. And then she asked me again a week later. So over that week, I wanted to deliver it. I didn't. And then on Monday morning, she asked me, have you got the list? And I hadn't had it. So what I did is I booked her and Tracy into a meeting the next day at 3 p.m. to review the list of items that I've produced for product improvements. So I basically forced myself, and I also had that commitment because I booked them into a meeting, so they're expecting to see this list I created for their review. And I just got it done. So I often do that. I often set myself, like if I'm procrastinating on something, I set myself a false deadline. I didn't have to do it. It's not entire. We all these items are not high priority. There's no deadlines for us. But I just set this false deadline to get it done. And there's other tactics you can do. Like some people, they work on their laptop without it plugged in. So the battery's running out, so that you can, like, basically you have to get your work done, particular task, before the battery runs out. So you can do that. Depends, you might have an awesome battery, but you can go maybe work in a cafe. Don't take your charger, and you only have 40%. You want to get it done by then. Anyway, think about that one. Oh, what's going on here? So yeah, Parkinson's law. I follow that quite a lot. I don't know if that resonates with you, but it certainly does with me. If I shorten the time available to do it, I'll be more productive. And then finally, kind of, this is just like, I would say these sort of three things: the 2-minute rule, eat that frog, the Parkinson's law, and then having a to-don't list. We all have to-do lists, and down into that bottom right-hand quadrant, the delete it, create your own to-don't list. It's a very, good practice to do. It's kind of your own. You could even create a to-don't list for your team. You could, you could collaborate on that. I don't know what's happening there. Or you can make it personal. So I am not going to visit social media between 9 and 5. I'm not going to look at my email between 11 and 4 p.m. because I'm going to schedule it. I'm not going to have meetings longer. Some companies don't have meetings longer than 25 minutes. It's like a company rule that you're not allowed, like Twitter, for example, famous for that. I think Elon Musk, he's crazy productive character. He's also a little bit controversial, but he doesn't allow any meetings in the organization longer than an hour. Don't call your family if that's something you do. You all know your little, they can be very personal, and you'll know your own distractions, what your go-tos. My ones are, I'll be able to show you. But yeah, they are tend to be. I'm not very, going to news sites, having a little look at the news, and then I spend probably too much time having a look on LinkedIn and stuff like that. Yeah, so create your own to-don't list, and also you can, if you want to be very strict, you can actually install, if particularly on your phone or your laptop, you can install tools to block things. So this app called Turkey is for Windows or Mac, and you can block all kinds. So you can't actually visit Facebook or visit a news site, or it's only open at certain times. So it's called Cold Turkey, just to remove all those distractions. So I think, yeah, with those things, you have your to-don't list, your Parkinson law, eat that frog, and 2-minute rule, you're already winning, because you're getting quick tasks done quickly, you're getting your main task done every day, and you're hitting your deadlines, and you're reducing your distractions. So tip number 7, it now goes beyond eat that frog. So eat that, you can follow the 1-3-5 rule, which I don't tend to do, but I might start doing it. It's, so the one big thing is obviously eat that frog. But then you follow this is basically your day. You have one big thing, 3 medium things, and 5 little things. And just keep your daily to-do list to those 9 things. So maybe if you have unplanned stuff that comes up every now and then, leave a couple of slots open for those, but you still want to get the ones that you plan for, and really try and stick to completing those single tasks one at a time without getting distracted. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Pomodoro technique. It's just basically working in time boxes. There's actually apps for it, or you could just set you can install an app on your desktop that sets the Pomodoro. You can just set a timer on your phone, or you can have a physical alarm where you basically set it a timer, like an egg timer or something like that, where you getting your 9 things done a day. You work in these time boxes of focused effort using Pomodoro technique. So you work for 25 minutes on that task, then you allow yourself you kind of bookmark where you are, you allow yourself a break, and then you come back to it. You might do 4 or 5 iterations of these 25 minutes, and then you might take a longer break. But, so some things are a bit, you can procrastinate. It's a bit boring getting insurance quotes, isn't it? So you kind of just say, right, I'm just going to focus 25 minutes and going to start getting my insurance quotes. Then you take a break, reward yourself with a coffee, tea or biscuit or anything like that, or chat with a colleague. And then you go back and do another iteration. You just really try and do your best during that 25 minutes just to focus on that. So I've put some maybe examples of what it could look like for a clerk. You've got your one big thing, you've got to do your create and publish the meeting minutes for your last meeting, then 3 medium things you've got to do, so that publish a meeting minutes, you're going to get that done. It has to eat the frog. It's not that fun creating meeting minutes. Some people might love it, but it's a little, you've already kind of got the basics, but it's formalizing it. Then 3 things, getting those insurance quotes.
Not the whole lot.
We should, Jess, could you have a look at muting that particular Mike? Thanks. Then, also in the medium things and little things, it's doing something for yourself, like learning, like you're doing now, attending the Clerk Smarter, Not Harder training. So you one of the 3 things, not just all work, it's about learning. And again, on the little things, it might be something like meeting Jan for a walk. So that could be, I don't know if that task list looks, like something you would do, but look at the 5-3-1-3-5 rule. 1-3-5 rule. Okay, right. So going more into the time boxed daily habits. This is also something I'm pretty much into. It's just creating routines and daily habits. And you could, your 5 little things could be routines. So the types of tasks, you could just, rather than responding to every email as it comes in, you can set a time every day that is your email time, or twice a day, let's say, in the morning and afternoon. So other than that, you're not looking at email, you're not getting distracted, because you are, that's a false sense of productivity. So you could set yourself like 11 a.m. I'm doing half an hour of email, and then maybe 3:30 p.m. I'm doing half an hour of email. So those are your email times, and just create that habit. That is, and you could also kind of include a reward in it. You also at that time, you can have your 11s. You can have a coffee and a biscuit or a snack or something like that at that time. So really creating time boxed work and creating it a daily habit, basically keeping it consistent all the time. And it really works well for personal reasons as well, fitness, eating, drinking and sleeping, creating those daily habits. So I always, although not at the moment, I've had to take 2 weeks off, but I always try to get to the gym every day. It opens at 7. It would be better if it opened up earlier, but every day it's 7 a.m. And I just do like half an hour. So I don't overcook it. I'm not a crazy gym rat, but I just do half an hour every day. And then also I do a run a day, but that's kind of, now I've been doing that habit for years. It's now inbuilt into me. This is how I operate, and I've had COVID, just recovering it from now. And now I can't do those daily habits that I've created. I'm desperate to get back. And I'm just not feeling good in myself at the moment, because I haven't been able to do that. I feel a bit more anxious, a bit more stressed and those kinds of things. So because of that kind of consistent daily habits I've built up, they kind of just keep me leveled out. Related to creating these new daily habits, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Seinfeld method. I love it. I've followed it. It's kind of don't break the chain. So when you, and actually, I don't know if any of you use Snapchat or anything like this, so a lot of the apps, they build this, it's not a good habit. They got a thing called streaks, so if you message your friend every day, you build up a streak and it counts the days. Like my daughter, she's been messaging a friend for 500 days, and then as soon as you don't message for the day, you lose your streak. That's that's a negative use case, but this is positive. If you're trying to build up a new habit, you can get a physical calendar and you just cross it off when you've done it. It could be something simple, like drinking 1 liter of water a day, going for a walk, doing 30 minutes exercise a day, doing, I mean, for work related stuff, you might just do it Monday to Friday, but it might be like, you know, you're going to do you know, you're going to keep on top of all your financial transactions every day, do a little bit every day. And so any kind of new habit, you kind of cross it off, and the goal is to not break the chain. You don't want to break the chain, because you see your chart, and if you have a whole year's chart and you haven't broke the chain for that whole year, it is, you know, hugely rewarding to do that. Okay, so this is like the last in the kind of 10 tactics. You know, there's loads of tactics out there, but these are the ones I personally use. Another big one, this is kind of my, a lot of those, you know, are well known. You know, if you just Google time management and task management, I'd say this is kind of my own, well, the first one about getting things out of your head, that's kind of my own one I've always thought about, and this is also my own one in terms of how I like to operate. So wherever possible, I try to increase the ability for other people to self-serve. And I've used an example which might help with you guys, in terms of a simple thing like an auto reply on an email. So I'm always thinking about how can I engineer myself out of doing a task and increase the ability for people to get answers themselves, or maybe automate things. So on the example below, you know, because we got like over 900 customers, we see loads of auto replies on email when we see them. And I say that's always a lost opportunity, you know, because often the auto reply is just quite simple. Sorry, I'm not in the office. My office hours are so and so. I'll get back to you when I can. Or yeah, there might, yeah. So that's very simple, but you could use that. I don't know what kind of emails you get. You might get a lot of emails from local residents and everything, but you could use that as a way to basically increase the ability for people to self-serve and for you not to do any work. So I've got some examples in there, like you could have a FAQ on your own council website. Frequently asked questions, and basically you're evolving that FAQ all the time. When you get a new question which is it's not on your FAQ, you add to it. So whenever someone emails on your autoresponder, say thanks for your email, if you have any questions, check out our FAQ. It might answer, you know, even if it answers 10%, you might get at the point it's answering 50% of people's questions. But you're constantly evolving that FAQ to kind of enable people to self-serve. Then you might be doing something special. I put an example there. If you are responding to requests for Christmas Lights Committee, please read the details here and then register here. So they can just go, you've got a registration form. I'll talk about forms in a minute later, but you've got a form for people just so they don't have to reply. They just sign up to the form and that's added to a spreadsheet. I'll show an example of that later. Then also you can recommend people using local community Facebook groups. I know, like we in North Horsham where I live, we have a very active one. Sometimes people might ask you questions aren't really related to kind of your role or the council's responsibilities or anything like that. You can point them in the direction of that. And then finally, I don't know if you could just allow people, you know, say you have certain times of the week where you kind of have office hours and you allow people to come in to ask questions. You could just enable them to book in for a 15-minute, or you could set it to 5-10 minute meeting. So that's an example of all different, you know, always thinking of ideas of you getting these incoming inquiries, and you can enable people to self-serve. It goes way beyond that, you know, even with your councillors, they might have questions. Rather than answering that question in a personal email, like for, you know, you create a document on it, then you answer in that and then link to it. And then next time you might have a similar question, you say, oh, I've documented it here. So it could be with your councillors, you could commonly get maybe just like new councillors and they're getting started, and you start instead of having all this amazing, like you're putting all this good content in emails, but it gets lost. Start building up documents so that next time you're basically creating like a councillor guidebook. for starting, organically rather than putting email, all those kinds of things. Anyway, so that's kind of tactics. Yeah, and then I'm going to go into tools. How are we doing for time? 40 minutes, better get going. Right. Tools. So this is delegating to software, also known as kind of digital transformation and modernizing government. So my top tip, number one, is use your voice assistant. Who has mobile smartphones? I assume most people have smartphones. As I've got older, and I'm not that good at typing as I used to be, I've never been that good because I've got dyslexia, but I really, the voice assistants have got really good now. So you've got the 3 voice assistants there on my mobile phone. I've got Siri. It's also now on my Apple Watch. So this is perfect for getting things out of my head. Perfect, because I've always got my mobile phone with me, and also I might have my watch. If something comes into my head, like when my wife asked me to do something, I just straight away, on my phone, I go, remind me tomorrow to buy postage stamps at 12 p.m. There you go. Done. Yeah, so 12 p.m. that'll pop up. So it's out of my head straight away. I don't have to worry about it. I'll remember it. Yeah, so it's similar. Like, I don't know if any one of you guys have got one of these devices, but I'm going to say the name now because it's going to be the trigger word. Say Alexa, remind me to buy cheese tomorrow at 11 a.m. Have I triggered anybody's Alexas? I did that the other day, and I triggered quite a few Alexas. None of that in your room, but yeah, highly recommend you using voice assistants. You'll start loving it, and you won't be able to live without your voice assistant. And also, it's good for dictation. Like, even when you're doing a text, you can dictate. It's much quicker and easier. So use that. Stop playing around with setting reminders with Siri or Alexa. Note-taking apps. I'd say, you might be taking notes on paper. I don't do that. I haven't been doing that for years now, for the last 15 years. I don't use paper anymore. Initially, when you want to get things out your head, I advise having a simple note-taking app, not like a complicated one initially. This is just the initial getting things out your head quickly. So I won't have time to do a demo, but I use Simple Note. There's others, Google Keep, Microsoft To Do, Evernote, OneNote. I love Simple Note because it works on my phone, it works on my laptop, it works anywhere. I can log onto it via a website. I've got an app here, I've got an app on my desktop, and it's instantly updates everywhere. And it's super lightweight. It's just a screenshot of it there. Highly recommend that. Task management. So once you want to start more formalizing things, use a task manager. This is an example of Asana's quite good, but there's loads out there. So in Asana, I've even gone in and I've classified things as important and responding to allotment society complaint. Oh, important. Is it important? I don't know. Not urgent. It's not urgent. So you can tag things up as not important to prioritize them, and then you could say, right, this is going to be my 1, 3, 5. You could drag them into a list, for the 9 at the top, say that those are the ones I'm going to do, and then you can then start working on them and move them into progress and move them on. So task management, I highly recommend using them, and you can assign those tasks to people and all that kind of stuff. But there's loads of great solutions out there. I also say you use messages instead of emails. I had a little Google, and I see Mistley Parish Council started using WhatsApp, and then you have a WhatsApp policy. I reckon, obviously it has to be, you have to get opt-in to all your councillors and your team, but it's much easier to send messages, much easier, and you're more likely to get response than the email. People less likely to respond or read emails but messaging like WhatsApp's on your phone. It's a faster way to communicate to people, more likely to get response. And if anything's official, you can follow up with an email to confirm it. But messages are really good. I mean, I read a bit about using WhatsApp at local councils, and people worried about freedom of information requests. They have no need to worry, because you can, it's so easy to export a WhatsApp group conversation if you need to. It's actually way better in terms of kind of having an audit log of conversation than email, because it's all really easy accessible in there. So I highly recommend using messaging for a lot of your communications instead of email. Something to think about. And you can go to enterprise chat tools. We use Slack a lot at work, Teams, Google Chat. There's loads of others, but WhatsApp, or even just group messaging, is every kind of messaging solution now has group chat. Google Docs, this is kind of just there are loads of Office 365s, it's basically Google Docs or Office 365, but just moving off your desktop. You're used to having your files on your laptop and having your desktop apps, your Microsoft Office, your Excel. Move into the cloud. It's so much safer, more secure. You've got data backups. You have to worry less about viruses if you got them on your machine. It's very good for GDPR. It's so easy to, if you keep all your files in the cloud and you share those with people, then you're not having multiple copies of the same files in different people's inboxes, different people's laptops, and all kinds of things. If you're in the cloud and you share and collaborate online with everybody, then all your data is there. It's not distributed everywhere. It's very easy, just to search the content online. Yes, and you can collaborate, comment, edit. You've got full version history. Google Docs has all the normal, Microsoft Word, the equivalent of Microsoft Word, spreadsheets and everything, like docs, sheets, slides, everything. I'm using slides now. Highly recommend you start going online. Scheduling stuff. So you're often scheduling stuff. So you might be, you could batch up all this work. So if you have to do social media posts, you don't have to do them. You could just plan half an hour each week. You're going to do your social media posts, but you use something like Hootsuite and you schedule it. So you don't have to do it in the moment. So you can kind of it's not something you have to do now. You can use tools like that. Same with email, using MailChimp, you can schedule emails. You can also have really nice design emails. You can also, and it also, tools like MailChimp take care of GDPR, getting consent, managing unsubscribes, etc. I'm a big user of Calendly or Doodle. So if someone's going to have a meeting with me, and we need to arrange a time, I'm never involved in that. I just send them a link. I can't see my link, but I've got Joe's here. So Joe, our team member, if she ever needs to arrange a meeting with someone, she just drops a link to the calendar. So if I want a meeting with Joe, I just come in here, I select a time that I can do, I confirm it, I enter my details. So we're not, sometimes you can spend 5 emails to and fro trying to organize a meeting time. But if Joe just shares her Calendly link, which integrates in with her own calendar, she can specify what time you could limit it to only, certain times in a particular week, and then I can book a meeting. If you need to book a meeting with loads of people, and need to find available time, you use Doodle, and that's where you can set a whole bunch of time slots available, and then people can say, I can do that one, and then you might have 5 different time slots of particular meeting you can do, and then everyone can say which one they can do, and you can see which one's the winner in terms of, so Doodle's very good. I'm going to shoot on, because we've only got 10 minutes. I'm very much into measuring things. So it's called Quantify Self. It's basically self-tracking and measuring things. I mean, fitness is a big thing. We're all familiar with step counts and trying to get you 10,000 steps a day and all that kind of stuff. But it goes beyond that. You know, you can also look at screen time on your phones. It'll tell you how much you're spending on apps, and also like Rescue Time, which is an app you run on your desktop to tell you how often you're, you know, so this is yesterday. I had quite a productive day yesterday. I mean, I was working, well, almost 10 hours. Is that, or no, it's 8 hours, is it? Yeah. No, I did a lot longer day yesterday. But out of that time, I did 6 hours, 33 minutes of focus time. So these are kind of the apps and the minutes I was spending on apps, which are like productive apps. You can classify it as. Then some other work, you know, Google searching. I was on LinkedIn, 9 minutes. And then these are not productive. These are distractions. I was on Twitter for 14 minutes. That's naughty. I was on WhatsApp for 7 minutes, BBC 6 minutes, not too bad. Amazon for 4 minutes, Facebook 1 minute. That's too good. But yeah, that's really good to measure yourself, to see what you're doing. I highly recommend. So it's not only in fitness, but also, you know, what apps you're using and whether they're productive. And I recommend, yeah, so all these kinds of apps will do some level of integration. So I'll give you a demo here. So you got, this is the task management system I've used, Asana. This is a pretend project I've done for Dayworth Town Council. So I've got all my tasks in there. So you can also, a lot of apps, they integrate with each other. So Asana integrates with my email in a very simple way. So I'll show you an example. So Emmanuel sent an invoice recently. So let's pretend I've got to pay it. So I can just forward that to Asana, and I will just rename the title November invoice pay Emmanuel, and I'll send that in to Asana. And then also I've got an allotment. This is fictitious, but I've got an allotment. So in that email for waiting list, so someone signed up for it. My dad signed up for an allotment, puts in his address 5 Simple Street, North Walsham, Bazza at Fagan.com, and he consents. So this is a simple sign up form for people. I mean, I just knocked it up in minutes. So they've submitted that. So there's two things that have happened. I've got to do work. I've got to pay an invoice, and of course I've got to add Bazza to the waiting list. So both of those should now appear in my inbox for my tasks. You see, it's automatically appeared in there. So I don't need to worry about, you know, I got that email, I've just forwarded it. This is a task. I've got now add allotments registration, Barry Fagan, and I've got to pay them. So I just add those to my project, Dayworth Town Council, because that's a work thing. If it wasn't work, I could leave it in my personal task, and then that gets added to the project there. And there you go. So I've got November. So then I could say that's important. You need to pay people's invoices. And so I go, this one is because it's a staff member. Yes, I can flag it up as important and urgent. You know, there we go. Because you want people to get their salary. So that's kind of integrations between apps. That's just a very simple example. There's loads of crazy integrations you can do. If you look up if this then that, IFTT or Zapier, you can integrate all kinds of apps and streamline workflows. Finally, Scribe, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We've got kind of this model of how the work that's required for managing financial accounts. Let's go back here. We've got this kind of hierarchy of needs in terms of all the admin that you've got to do. Then you've got to monitor your finances, producing your reports, monitoring your God, what's going on here? Monitoring your actual spend against your budget, and then you've got to do your year end, producing your account statements, etc. And then finally you've got to do your external audit and publish everything. So this is kind of a model we created at Scribe for the kind of the hierarchy of needs, what you've got to do. And most of the time I think a lot of clerks will be running the cash book doing the admin, and it's important but not urgent. But as soon as you move to the monitoring, governing and accountability, and you're producing reports, setting your budget and your precept and doing your annual statement, it quickly switches to important and urgent. And the higher up you go the pyramid, it gets stress and anxiety. And I don't know, you're next year, February, you're going to start thinking about year end. It might be that kind of seasonal effect where you find you're going to start getting stressed. You've just done your precept budgeting now. You're going into year end and you think, well, I'm entering the important urgent, and it really doesn't have to be that way. So with Scribe accounts, you do all your work down at the bottom, your daily, weekly, data entry, entering your transactions, do your bank reconciliation, doing your VAT claims, etc. And the rest is automated in Scribe. So all the reports that you need to do, just a click of a button. Your year ends, just a click or a button. I've put a yoga pose there, because you can, you're doing all that time, you feel like it's urgent and important, but there's actually using software intelligently enables you to basically automate that, hit a button, it's done, and you can spend that time on yourself. You're working overtime, doing extra hours, you don't need to be doing that. You can use tools to be able to automate it. And it goes beyond. For us, for Scribe, we have other apps for managing cemetery allotments and bookings. It can basically put rocket fuel into your productivity with all our applications. They all integrate really seamlessly, and then that can also actually benefit the whole team, because if you're a bigger council, we have multiple people, they can be doing their own, using the tools, collaborating and working efficiently, and everything integrates into accounts. So you have all data in one place, backed up, compliant, etc. So that's kind of our kind of offering to the community. Finally, if I had more time, there's loads more apps. I'll send these out in links, but there's loads of cool little apps I like to use to make things more productive. But yeah, so I hadn't tested the length of it. It's quite long. I've got 2 minutes. I've got time to hang out to answer any questions. Apologies if people want to ask questions, they've got to go on now, but I've got to do it. Awesome. Okay, well, if there's no questions, take it easy, have a great day, and see you next time. Bye-bye.